Today we're going to be focusing on adding and subtracting integers. So you can see at the top, this first set of notes is going to be on adding, and then if you look ahead, you've got subtracting on the next page, and then this last page that we included in your notes is like a really nice reference sheet that we'll talk about at the end for adding and subtracting integer rules. So first we're going to start with just some basic definitions that you will need to know on a test or quiz. We've got integers are positives, negatives, and zero. They're a set of whole numbers and their opposites. So when you think about whole numbers, that is our counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up. And their opposites, -1, -2, -3, -4. And whole numbers also include zero. I always remember that because the zero in the, or the O in whole kind of looks like a zero. So I'm just going to give you just a couple examples here of integers. We've got -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So you can see I've got my counting numbers and their opposites as well as zero. Those are integers. We've got absolute value, and that is the distance away from zero on a number line. Sometimes I call them happy lines because they make everything positive. So no matter what we have the absolute value of, for example, we could have the absolute value of -16. It turns into +16. We could have the absolute value of 7, and that turns into +7. Absolute value is the distance away from zero, and we never ever measure distances in negatives. We don't ever say I live -7 miles from Grandma's house. We live 7 miles from Grandma's house. We don't say we live -3 miles from school. We say we live 3 miles from school. So when we're talking about distance from zero on a number line, it's always positive. So that's why those absolute value symbols always make things positive. And that's why sometimes I'll call them happy lines, because they make everything positive. Then we've got opposites. The opposite of a positive is a negative, and the opposite of a negative is a positive. So 16 and -16, 7 and -7, -3 and 3, all of those are opposites. And the last thing we've got is a zero pair. A zero pair is a positive and negative that cancel each other out to make zero. So when we add 7 plus -7, we get 0. They're a zero pair. When we have -100 plus +100, they're a zero pair. They equal 0 when we add them. So that's just some important vocab that you need to know for the start of this lesson today and for the start of this unit. Let's do some examples, and we're going to actually model some of these with a picture. So my first example here is -8 plus -5. I tend to, this is the picture that I draw. I always have a mountain, and I kind of show this as like a little battle scene. So I've got -8. So I've got 8 negatives on this side of the mountain. And on this side of the mountain, I've got -5. And when I draw this, they come to the top of the mountain, these two groups of people. We've got -8 people and -5 people. They come to the top, and at the top they decide if they're going to fight or be friends. And if they're all the same, if they're all negatives, they realize they're on the same, they're fighting for the same thing, they're fighting for the same team, and so they become friends. So in this case, this whole group joins together to make an even bigger army. And now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 negatives. So -8 plus -5 is -13. We can do that also with a picture over here, 12 plus -7. If we draw our little mountain battle here, and we've got +12, just going to put 12 little positive symbols in on this side, and on the other side we've got 7 negatives. So now I've got, and they come to the top of the mountain. When they realize that they are not fighting for the same army, we've got positives and negatives, they're going to go to war. They're going to fight. And when they fight, they're going to cancel each other out. So this negative and this positive will cancel. Same with these two, 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 and then I'll be left with 5 positives. So 12 plus -7 is equal to +5, because all of these others cancel each other out when they come to the top. They cancel each other out, and at the end I'm left with 5 positives. And so we kind of have this silly saying, and then we use it as a shortcut for coming up with our rules for addition. So when signs are the same, like we did in example A, negatives and negatives, they're going to be friends and make a bigger army. And when signs are different, like positives and negatives, they're going to fight and they're going to cancel out each other, and we're going to be left with whatever has the bigger number. And so we're going to fill that in the next video, and then we're going to add those 3 examples at the bottom and try and do it without a picture.